Alert weather extra after making a devastating landfall across the southeast last night. We take a look at some of the places impacted by Hurricane Helene and how they're beginning the cleanup process.
And we'll continue to track the tropics as another disturbance in the Caribbean could form over the next 7 days. Certainly news we don't want to hear.
Plus, it's the weekend. We're on your side with all the fun events taking place, and if you'll need to bring that rain gear with you.
Live on your side. First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
And one of the big stories with Hurricane Helene, the flooding today, parts of Tennessee, parts of the Carolinas. This is going to be a big system as far as impacts inland. Lauren, Tania joining us again here for Weather Extra. What a system.
It's just unreal. At times you don't even have words. You know, we make these forecasts and we see, oh, it's going to be bad, but then you actually see what it looks like. It's like, oh, that's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah. I'm so fortunate that here we were okay, but we just hate to see it for our neighbors to the east.
Yeah, and I know, you know, this was a lot for you, Lauren, last night. I mean, your mother was in Valdosta as this thing was making landfall. I just can't imagine, you know, and we were certainly thinking about her and glad she's okay. I saw you posted about that today on Facebook, and I heard so many stories overnight, people, you know, going through this. Winds 80 miles per hour for like 30 minutes. I had one story I shared on Facebook, a family that was sheltered in the hallway. Tyler Young shared it. They were in Douglas, Georgia. There was a tree on the house. There were the smell of pine trees, snap trees. They could smell and part of the roof was missing. And he said the winds, they were like 80 miles per hour for 30 minutes with 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Now, we're not seeing winds like that, but we do have some gusty winds possible for this evening. That secondary phase that we talked about as we go to the next big thing, and we look at what's basically a upper level storm system. It's gobbled up what's left of Helene, and now we're seeing that rotating in across our area. It's doing that. We talked about the weather extra earlier this week, that effect where we see this system pinwheel around one another, and now we're seeing some rain that's returning, and we've got gusty winds out there, some showers that are showing up. You can see around the Birmingham area over towards Alabaster, around Hamilton. Also a couple of showers. This is all tracking to the east, but there's a little bit of rain out there for tonight, but also some very breezy conditions. Let's get in here close around Birmingham, Vestavia Hills. Showers tracking over towards Cahaba Heights, and looks like Trussville actually getting some of that rainfall, and Springville right now. Let's go in a little bit closer. Yeah, Holly Springs, Springville area, a passing shower, enough to certainly wet the roadways, and the wind gust at this time topping 30 miles per hour, so the wind speeds are picking up. I mean, they continue to go up. Fayette around 34, and as we noted, I mean, there's a chance in here, some of these areas to the north, we could see some winds gusting as high as 40 miles per hour for this evening, and that's going to add a chill. I mean, it's going to feel cool out there. There's some data now showing we could hold on to those 60s for a good part of the day for some of these areas to the north tomorrow. So that's what's next. This trailing upper trough, it swings over this weekend, brings a few showers tomorrow, but not a washout. It's actually going to help to keep those temperatures down. A few showers could be around, highs approaching 80 degrees on Sunday. A lot of us will stay in the 70s, and then we have the tropical threat that we could see again. We're just in a pattern. You know, we get into these weather patterns, and it's the Gulf of Mexico that we need to watch for next week. But where Helene is right now, that system, of course, what's left of it is much weaker. It's lifted well to the north. Now we're getting that trailing system. But you may be wondering how you can help the victims from Hurricane Helene. Great Television, our company, has partnered with the Salvation Army to raise money. Just scan this QR code that you see on the screen. It will take you right where you can help. You can also go to helenehelp.org.
And one of the other big concerns that Hurricane Helene has caused for many of our areas to the east, Florida, Georgia, is that people are still dealing without power. I mean, you know how it's just so inconvenient to not have power. You can't cook, you barely can use your restroom and turn on your lights, you can't watch TV, there's really no Wi-Fi, anything like that. But as we take a look at Florida and some of the power outages, you can see how many people are still dealing without power. And that's the state of Florida right there. there. You can see that Georgia, still many without power near Augusta, 94,000, 82,000 in South Carolina. And it looks like some counties in South Carolina over 100,000 or right near 100,000 homes without power. And that's going to be the case continuing over the next couple of days. Maybe a few people without power here across central Alabama, but we definitely didn't see the greatest span of impacts from Hurricane Helene. But I want to send it over to Lauren Linehan now with details on the rainfall totals and storm surge.
Yeah, Tania, like you were saying, there was just a wide swath of power outages. But we talk about power. A lot of that actually had to do with the wind damage. But we can't discount that one of the greatest issues with this storm was the flooding. Here's just a look at some of the rainfall totals over the past 48 hours alone. Now, remember, before Helene, there was already that low pressure system, that upper level disturbance that has now basically sucked Helene into its circulation. And that had already produced some rain ahead of it. So just over the past 2 days alone, look in the Florida Big Bend. This is near the Apalachicola National Forest. Over 10 inches of rain. In South Georgia, 4 to 8 inches of rain. And it's really up in the metro area of Atlanta, where almost 9 inches of rain were recorded. But you can see that just greatly tapers off once you cross the state line into Alabama. But where some of the most prolific flooding has been from Helene was actually in the southern Appalachians. Look at South Carolina, western North Carolina, areas like Asheville getting close to over a foot of rain, 15 inches of rain recorded, over a foot of rain recorded in western North Carolina. And this rain is still ongoing areas to the north. So Helene was certainly a fast moving system, but had a lot of moisture associated with it. So we've been talking about Helene and the impacts the flooding had, but think about this. Take a look at these images from our sister station WVLT in Tennessee and Knoxville. These come after communities near the Waterville Dam were evacuated as heavy rainfall across the Newport area fell due to the remnants of Helene, causing flooding across the county. Thankfully, it still hasn't failed as of 5:30 p.m. Central Time, but officials and city leaders are still asking those who live in the area to stay in their safe spot until they can get an all clear. And from our sister station WALB in Albany, Georgia, check out this video of storm surge taking over roads across Cedar Key. You can see debris from trees scattered and water almost reaching doorways.
And in Georgia, one apartment complex in Atlanta feeling those impacts. And listen, I mean, areas to our east are still dealing with impacts from Hurricane Helene to this second. This is footage, though, coming from Peachtree Park. Officials having to perform boat rescues after heavy rain caused the apartments to take in water. Those who live there saying it was worse than they expected it to be. And in North Carolina, torrential rains from Helene causing a potential dam failure and bringing more than a foot of rain to the Asheville area. The Department of Transportation saying all roads in western North Carolina should be considered closed because it is too dangerous to travel. A mudslide also sending one lane of I-40 into the Pigeon River, causing the highway to close in both directions. And with at least 30 fatalities now from Helene, huge portions of the southeast are beginning the cleanup and recovery process. Michael Yoshida joins us now with a reaction from those in the path of this storm.
Here in Steinhatchee, Florida, the storm surge from Hurricane Helene was significant. You can see all of the debris around me. This appears to be the water line for how high that surge got. As we look also in the distance, you can see what was a dock in the river now broken off, lifted up, and just planted right on the land there. This is happening as residents are now starting to get a feel for all of the damage that was caused.
You just hear this loud rumble for about 10-15 seconds, and then you just looked out front and you see the roof just coming off.
It was a loud and punishing night by Helene for residents who chose to ride it out.
Really loud noises. We didn't know what it was. We thought it was like some thunder or something.
Many will spend Friday assessing the loss of homes, businesses, and vehicles. Across the southeast, rescue teams have been going nonstop.
We've been doing water rescues all night.
Officials have been repeating the warning to stay hunkered down. Do not venture out on the roads.
The vehicle was traveling in through the water and it floated it off the roadway.
In North Carolina, forecasters are calling Helene, quote, one of the most significant weather events to happen in the modern era for the region, with 2 of the storm's fatalities happening in that state. As Tropical Storm Helene churns up the East Coast, its massive wind span is stretching nearly 500 miles, roughly the distance between Indianapolis and Washington, D.C. Forecasters warn dangerous wind gusts, torrential rain, and devastating flooding will threaten the region for several more hours. And authorities caution that the threat doesn't end after Helene passes.
We need everyone to really be thoughtful about making sure they watch out for down power lines. They don't walk through or drive through floodwaters. If your power is out, don't use candles, use flashlights.
And for more perspective,
I'm Caitlin Oden from Claytopha High School, and this is your Friday evening Sideline forecast. At 7 p.m., there's a 30% chance of rain, and the low will be 68 degrees. From 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., that chance of rain will drop to 20%, and the temperature will drop to 66 degrees by 10 p.m. I'm Caitlin Oden, and this is your Friday evening Sideline forecast.
All right, way to go there, Caitlin. We enjoy those sideline forecasts. Be listening out for the game of the week and your chance to also deliver the kickoff for sideline forecast. Don't forget, go to Weather in the Classroom as well. We want to see some more of those Weather in the Classroom color the fall photos. We have a lot of those templates there. You can share those. We feature those right here on First Alert Weather Extra. And Alabama football, what a game coming up this weekend. 73 degrees, Georgia and Alabama. The temperatures are going to be perfect for football. Looks like some clouds, but at this time, we're not expecting a lot of wet weather. I think we could see some showers during the morning. And looking at the Auburn forecast, you can see Oklahoma at kickoff at Auburn, 79 degrees and a few clouds mixing in. That kickoff around 2:30, so not too bad for the afternoon, and just not seeing a lot of rainfall. But some of the models actually did show just to the west of Lee County a couple of showers. And the UAB forecast kickoff time at 11 in the morning, 68. It's going to be mostly cloudy, a little breezy tomorrow, not as windy as tonight, but that wind will back off a little bit for this weekend. But a lot that we're tracking right now with what's left of Helene, but we're watching the tropics closely. It's still an active pattern, right, Lauren?
Yeah, that's right, Wes. We are actually seeing the potential for more activity as we wrap up September and head into October. This all kind of happened while Helene was forming, but we do want to draw your attention to Hurricane Isaac out in the north central Atlantic. It's got max sustained winds at 85 miles per hour. This is what we call a fish storm, because the only one who's really going to be bothered by it, the fish. So fortunately, no land interaction with this. But as we look at that future track, it does take it farther north into the Atlantic. Maybe by the latter half of next week, whatever is left of it could be well off of the coast of Ireland to the west. So no issue for us here, but we also have another place that we're going to be watching here. We've got the beyond the 7-day that Tania is going to be showing us in a little bit, but we do want to watch as well across the National Hurricane Center. They have been showing a couple of other places for potential development. And one of those places that we're going to be watching is actually in the Gulf of Mexico. So those places that we're going to be watching in the Gulf of Mexico in the days ahead really are going to be highlighting that potential for tropical development later in the week. So you'll see we also have Joyce out in the Atlantic, but there's one spot we're watching that actually we just got an update from the National Hurricane Center, and it shows that it has a medium chance of development, that wave off of the west coast of Africa. But this is going to be the next one to watch. We've got an area in the Gulf of Mexico that has a low chance of development within the next week, but I wouldn't be surprised if that changes. So we can kind of give you an idea of what that looks like in the days ahead as we compare these two weather models, or two long-range models, the European and the American model, also known as the GFS. This is a snapshot of what they both look like next Friday at 6 p.m. Notice, compared to Helene, none of this looks very impressive yet, but we do want to watch it because we have been seeing the potential by possibly late next week, Friday, next weekend. We could see the potential for development for low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico, and that could bring at least some rain chances to folks next week. So we'll be keeping an eye on things.
Thanks, Lauren. We certainly will. One thing that you may be eyeing is what that weekend forecast looks like. So let's kind of walk through some of the events happening this weekend so that you can be best prepared. We have the Irondale Music Festival at Beacon Park tomorrow, 3 p.m. So it's late Saturday afternoon. Temperatures likely starting off in the 70s, upper 60s, just around 7 o'clock. It's going to be a pretty cloudy day. If you're going to be outdoors, I would still pack the umbrella and rain jacket just in case, and to be prepared for that slight rain chance that will be around. And if you have maybe different plans, maybe you want to hang out at Lynn Park for Fiesta Birmingham, 12 o'clock to 8 p.m. at the start of the event, temperatures in the low 70s. At 8 o'clock, you'll see temperatures in the upper 60s. That should be a really fun event. Again, pack the rain gear for that minimal rain chance. We have an event happening on Sunday, Picnic at Railroad Park. Now this one will be really great. Rain chances still there, but very minimal, about a 20 to 30% chance. We'll see temperatures in the 70s. Could see highs warming into the upper 70s or lower 80s. Partly cloudy skies, a little more sunshine around for you on Sunday. And here's another one on Sunday. Arts and Crafts Festival. If you like to do some arts and crafts and if you love fall, this is the place to be. Homestead Hollow, this is in Springville, Alabama, starts at 9 a.m. and goes until 5 p.m. At the start of this event, temperatures will be already pretty pleasant, 70 degrees. Partly cloudy skies, staying dry for this area by 5 o'clock. Temperatures there in the mid to upper 70s. All right, guys, if you have plans to maybe even do some yard work this weekend, plan for that slight rain chance. I'll give you fair conditions to get outdoors, maybe mow that lawn, and if you need to, water those plants. But here's what's coming up, Lauren.
Well, Tania, still ahead, we continue to talk about the return of sunshine for next week, and we show you how polarized sunglasses work in this week's Moment of Science. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back in. We've got some winds whipping out there right now. I want to show you this power outage map again, and when you look at it from this perspective, it just really shows you where some of those strongest winds associated with Hurricane Helene were located. And, you know, yesterday we talked a lot about Tallahassee as this moved north. There's Albany, Macon, Atlanta areas, and we saw that center move in this direction here, but the eastern side, which is typically one of the more dangerous sides of these tropical systems, it was certainly quite dangerous and really caught a lot of those areas around Tampa there as well. They ended up with all that storm surge. There was so much focus, you know, right there on where this was going to make landfall, but that just kind of goes to show again that that far outer reach to the east there, that is the dangerous side of these tropical systems. But we're left over with some winds. We have a trailing upper level disturbance, a trough that's gobbling up what's left of Helene, and that energy as it rotates through, it's going to keep us rather windy out there. Well, a few moments ago I had a traffic cam pulled up from Tuscaloosa, but hey, we've got this view, right? River Market, 68 degrees and winds gusting up to 22 miles per hour. Some rain in Birmingham right now, and it's one of those nights where it's mostly cloudy and it's just enough rain to be a nuisance. Some wet roads out there, so certainly plan for some spotty showers and also some very light mist and drizzle, and this is what we're dealing with. There's going to be some sloppy fields out there for some of those sideline games tonight. No rain falling at Nectar right now. We're overcast, winds gusting to 16, winds gusting to 18 here around Jacksonville. We do have some rain also moving into parts of Calhoun County, but again, this is rotating around that upper level disturbance. It's going to keep some showers around. Keep it very breezy for tonight. Tomorrow, as we break into our Saturday, we'll start out with some clouds and maybe a few showers in the morning. I do think the afternoon will trend drier, although an isolated shower possible. The clouds will keep us in the 60s, possibly to the north, with temperatures in the 70s further south. And as we look at the tropics again, just want to show you this over the Gulf of Mexico. This is a very active region, the Caribbean, the southern Gulf. This is the next big thing we're going to have to watch into next week. We could see another system trying to organize and lift north. Just don't know where it could go at this point because we don't have enough data at this time. But the way the models have performed, we're going to have to watch it closely, especially with this pattern that we are in right now. But at least we have a period of dry weather coming up next week. Things kind of settle down. Highs back in the 80s, kind of cool this weekend, especially out there for tonight. But we'll see those temperatures back into the 80s. Feeling like fall this weekend, and great time for a Color the Weather photo. And how about this lovely pumpkin photo? This was sent to us by Tessa M. And thank you, Tessa, so much for sharing this with the First Alert Weather team. Another junior weather watcher out there. We're so glad to have you coloring and sharing some incredible skills there today. We need Tessa to help us out with some of these weather graphics, right? Hey, Color the Weather. You can do that by visiting WBRC.com/color the weather. Different templates for the seasons are right there. And it looks like you can also submit those on the weather app as well and submit on the page. And we'll feature those right here on First Alert Weather Extra.
Awesome, Wes. Well, Wes, you showed us the 7-day. I want to take our family and our friends and our viewers beyond the 7-day. You know, we've given you that first alert. By the time we reach next Friday, we'll be watching the Gulf again for a possible disturbance. And it does look like we could see some showers beyond the 7-day. So next weekend might be more cloudy and a little bit more rainy. Temperatures in the upper 70s, low 80s. Through the start of next week, as we look closer to 14 days out, though, starting to see more of those upper 70s, those fall-like conditions. Partly cloudy skies as we look closer to about 13 to 14 days out. So a little more sunshine and looking drier. But that can and possibly will change, so keep that in mind. That's beyond the 7-day. We'll continue to give you forecast updates every single day. If you've ever squinted in sunlight, this one's for you. Dan Smith becomes a polarizing figure, showing how certain sunglasses filter out certain light in this moment of science.
Today's episode is all about being polarizing. And no, I'm not talking about politics or pineapple on pizza. I'm talking about how these little beauties help you to see better during those east-west commutes. Time to revisit our old friend, the electromagnetic spectrum. But really, just this part. It looks a little weird, but this is basically how light travels as a wave. We're not getting into the wave versus particle thing again. That was like 100 episodes ago. Picture it with an up and down and side-to-side motion. That up and down is the electric part of the wave, and the side to side is the magnetic part. Electromagnetic, get it, got it, good. That vertical electric part is the polarity of the wave. Now the sun, a campfire, even just your average incandescent light bulb throws off a bunch of different waves and polarizations, so it's considered unpolarized light. So how do sunglasses filter out the right stuff? Well, the classic demonstration involves two pieces of polarized film where you turn one of them 90 degrees and suddenly someone turned the transparency sliders way down. That's because the film only allows through the light that's at just the right polarity or vertical orientation. You double that up with the filters and it just turns black. Think of putting a dollar bill in a vending machine. It doesn't exactly work unless you line it up just right. In this case, the charged atoms inside that filter interact with the electric field. All of those other light waves at other angles get filtered out, making it easier on the eyes without leaving you in the dark. Those polarized sunglasses therefore reduce glare, since light reflecting off the surface of water or shiny metal becomes polarized, and unless it all happens to be in that one direction your sunglasses are oriented to, it still filters it properly, enabling you to see through water a lot better. It's not like you'll be able to see shipwrecks a mile down. Your LCD computer screen also has a filter, so using that 90-degree rotation trick's a good way to test what type of sunglasses you have. Polarization also matters for weather radar. Within the decade, all National Weather Service radar stations were upgraded to dual polarization, with those horizontal and vertical wave pulses helping with a whole meteorological menagerie from storm structure to hail cores. We'll break down the physics of radar a bit more in a future episode. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
Well, check out this incredible video. The Coast Guard rescued a man and his dog off a sailboat on the Florida coast, the Gulf Coast, during Helene. The 36-foot boat, long sailboat, became disabled and started taking on water about 25 miles off Sanibel Island. A Coast Guard member from Air Station Clearwater descended from the helicopter into the ocean. He hooked the duo up and they were airlifted into the helicopter safely.
Wow.
Just incredible. I'm so glad they're okay. I can only imagine, you know, it was scary enough inland, but being in the thick of Helene out in the middle of the ocean,
water, yeah, no.
very terrifying. So a good story of resilience there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so thankful for the Coast Guard too, and all the first responders. You saw so many stories about the water rescues in Atlanta throughout the morning hours. We actually have some leftover rain moving through tonight. It's windy, it's breezy. Looks like that's going to stay that way for this Friday night, and tomorrow kind of cloudy, but not a washout for the weekend.
No. Yeah, not a wash. Will be a little cloudy, not a whole lot of sunshine, but
hey, not too bad for the Alabama-Georgia game, which I know is
really
all anyone cares.
That's all anyone cares.
A little bit of football tomorrow, a little bit of football tonight. We'll see you right here. Don't forget, we're going to be streaming our news on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe.